Okay, kids, gather round. It's time again. Once again, it is time for the We Are One, You Are Two PlayStation podcast. I am your host, Rob Fanzo, joined once again by the marvelous Matt Rhodes.
Heyo.
This is the PlayStation podcast, Matt. This is our 97th episode.
Ooh-wee.
This week. But we've got something good lined up for people today. It's a lot of conversation around. There's a lot of news this week. Must be the New Year syndrome and, you know, the new console stuff this year, 2020. And so we're going to talk a lot about some news regarding PlayStation 5 this week. We're going to talk about the fact that Naughty Dog has another claim to fame. Several, in fact, this week, if you noticed. And some people were not happy about it, but we'll talk about that. We'll also talk a little bit about the fact that we're coming up on our 100th episode.
That's nuts.
And I am in the works with some developers to hopefully give some games away in conjunction with it to celebrate it. And so we've got some good stuff lined up for you. So if you're a person who normally listens to the podcast, continue listening. If you're a person who doesn't ever listen to the podcast, hopefully someone has sent you here saying you should start listening to these guys. They are going to be giving away games in a couple of episodes, or maybe even over a couple of episodes. We'll see how it goes. I've got some things lined up, but we'll kind of play that out over the next 2 to 3 episodes and see what happens here. And of course, you can find us over at patreon.com/weare1ur2 for more information, where I'll probably be running a blog post for patrons only to see that. So giving you more of a reason to sign up. Lastly, if you like what you hear, you can go over to your favorite podcasting service, like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate that as well. Matt, like I said, we have a pretty good show lined up for people this week. But first and foremost, I always like to talk about what we've been playing. And so I feel like we need to start that way before we can get into this juicy episode I've got lined up for us.
Ooh, yes. Okay, so I'll start. I'm excited to get to the juicy episode as well. But we gotta do some, system maintenance as we normally do. With
maintenance call.
Yeah. So what happens is I've been playing some games. I've been playing Fortnite and Rocket League. Duh. Everyone knows that. But I've also been playing a little bit of Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice. So I'm close to the. I don't know. I feel like I'm more than halfway through, at least in relation to how many like rune stone thingies I've found throughout the game. I'm more than halfway through.
Okay.
So I can kind of see how it's winding up a little bit, or wrapping up a little bit. But it's been pretty cool. It's been pretty exciting. So I probably only have a few hours left of that. And then I don't know if you've heard of the PlayStation Plus free games. The Nathan Drake collection, and what was the other one? Goat Simulator. I have not played Goat Simulator, but seeing as it was on my list as to what the things that I have not played, I have been playing some Uncharted 3.
Oh, finally.
Yes, finally. That's correct, Robert. And I am, I think I'm about halfway through that as well. I've collected 60 of the 100 treasures, so I'm pretty sure. I think I just started chapter 12, maybe. So yeah, I'm pretty much maybe a little bit more than halfway through on that as well. So yeah, that's exciting. I'm excited to kind of do that and get into that.
It's never too late to dive into Uncharted.
Exactly. I'm playing on a crushing difficulty, so I'm getting really mad a lot of the time. But
Oh yes.
Because, you got to play through on the hardest difficulty to get the trophy. So I'm going to platinum it for sure. But,
Oh, wow. I've never even did that with any of those.
Oh, really? Yeah. I think I platinumed. I was going to say, I think I platinumed the first 2, but I believe I did not go back and play. I think you had to, In the first one, I think you had to play on the hardest difficulty to unlock like the even harder difficulty, and then you had to play through it again on that. And I never played through a second time. I was like, screw that. But I'm almost positive I platinumed 2, and I will definitely platinum 3.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. In the Uncharted collection, there's no multiplayer trophies, correct?
There are none. No.
Okay, so that's why I never platinumed any of them, because I was not good enough for the multiplayer, and I was like, I'm not going through and spending another 30 or 40 hours in the multiplayer trying to earn those trophies. So maybe I should go back and play the Uncharted collection so I can finally say I've platinumed an Uncharted game. Yeah, that's why I never went and did it.
Might as well. I mean, if you can. Yeah, I don't think there's any online trophies.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah. What have you been playing, Robert? Oh, wait. I also been playing... Sorry. I completely forgot about the Switch. Today...
Well, this is a PlayStation podcast anyway, but...
Yeah, I know it's a PlayStation podcast, but I mean, we talk about a little bit of Switch. I got that Mario v. Rabbids Battle Kingdom, which...
Okay.
Oh my gosh, it's hilarious. It's only $15 right now on the eShop, Nintendo eShop. I got that and Mario Kart. I didn't play Mario Kart yet, but I'm super excited for that. I have played it before, obviously, but it's pretty great actually. That the Mario v. Rabbids Battle Kingdom. It's one of those like tactical, like battleground kind of a thing. Like, you know, it's like a tactic game. Like, so you have to like move across the map and like it's turn based and things like that. And normally I hate those games. The only games that I like that are like that are the South Park games, like Stick of Truth and Fractured But Whole. And this is that for kids. Like where, like where a South Park is a very adult humor kind of game. This is like silly and goofy enough, like kid humor wise, that it's fine. You know what I mean?
So let me get this straight. You like it because it's on your level for kids.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure we were clear on that.
Oh yeah, 100% understandable. And what have you been playing, Robert?
Well, let's see. That is a great question. I dipped back into this week Fallen Order. Now, to be fair, I only dipped back into it recently, maybe the last 2 days. I'm going to try and get the platinum. I realized I'm a little further off with some of the trophies than I care to be. And so it's probably going to take me several hours to do it, but I think it'll be worth it in the end.
Sorry, what was the game?
Jedi Fallen Order.
Oh, Fallen Order. Oh, yeah.
And then I also dipped into a lot of Greedfall, which is a Spiders game. It came out last year. It's published by Focus Home Interactive. I think it came out in like September. It was right around the busy time of the year. And I waited for it to go down to like $35. I think it was normally $49 maybe. And so I purchased that and I finally cracked it open. And I started it last week. But I spent like probably a good 10 hours. I think I've got 15, 20 hours into it so far. It's really, really good. I really like the dialogue choices. I really like the different factions. It reminds me of like Fallout New Vegas mixed with like an old Mass Effect or Dragon Age game. And so I'm really enjoying it for that reason. Need for Speed Heat, Blasphemous. And then I dipped back into my PlayStation Vita this week. And I purchased a little game called Deep Space Rush. And I snagged the platinum for that.
Ooh.
So it's one of those platinums that you could probably snag in half hour.
So it's like a buy a platinum?
Yeah, it's a buy a platinum. But I had my Vita out and I was like, man, I haven't fired this thing up in a while. And I was like, I'm just going to look and see what's on there. And I looked at it and it's like a little roguelike shooter, like space shooter. And I thought, well, I kind of need something mindless for a good 20 minutes, half hour here and there. And so I went ahead and purchased it. And then when trophies started popping left and right, I was like, okay, this feels good. So yeah, I went ahead and purchased the platinum this week, I guess, if you want to talk about it that way. And then also, I swore there's one more. Oh, I just touched my Switch like you did. I played a little bit of Luigi's Mansion this week and a little bit of My Friend Pedro.
Believe me, if Luigi's Mansion was on sale right now, I would buy that as well. But I know it's not going to be for anytime soon.
Luigi's Mansion is really, really good. It's really fantastic. It's a little boring, I thought, for the first 3 to 4 hours. And then after that, it gets really, really good. My Friend Pedro is really good, too. And I also started playing Ori and the Blind Forest, just the demo. But between that opening and the first few minutes of the game, I can tell it's probably one I'm going to want to buy. And I probably will actually put that at the priority list with Luigi when I have my Switch out. So quite a few games this week, but really, really enjoyable stuff, I guess. Well, that wraps it up for me. Is that it? Anything else you want to add to your playing list you forgot?
No, I got them all.
All right. Well, let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about some of the news in case you missed it this week. This is kind of a long list. Excuse me. I've got a cough. It's killing me. This is kind of a long list this week, Matt. We've got at least 14 stories. I numbered them, but I numbered them some like 1.5 because they're very similar. And so I can sum up the first probably 2 or 3 in the same way. And they are that we got a lot of our game of the decade lists, right? You and I even talked about games that influenced the decade on one of our podcasts a couple weeks ago. Was that last week or the week before?
I believe 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Okay.
Yeah, because last week was about like the games of 2020.
I'll tell you what, sometimes it's hard to keep track. So anyway, what happened was, Metacritic put out their little games of the decade based on Metacritic score. And of course, what do you think was the top 10? Last of Us, right? Last of Us was the very top. And then, of course, Breath of the Wild, followed by Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, Red Dead Redemption 2, Mass Effect 2, Bloodborne, Elder Scrolls 5, Skyrim, God of War, Grand Theft Auto 5, and Dark Souls. And so I was like, okay, that's cool. That's a good list, but it's Metacritic based, blah, blah, blah. And then the official PlayStation blog came out with their results for the game of the decade. And that was what was more important to me was that was a community poll, which means that was games that have only featured on PlayStation and that people voted on. And so I want to read off that list, just the top 10 as well, because I think you'll see some commonalities there. The Last of Us at number 1, God of War from 2018 at 2, Witcher 3, Wild Hunt at 3, Grand Theft Auto 5 at 4, Red Dead Redemption 2 at 5, Skyrim at 6, Horizon Zero Dawn at 7, Bloodborne 8, Uncharted 4 Thief's End at 9, and Spider-Man rounding up the top 10. I was very happy that Nier Automata made 14th. And Death Stranding was on at number 15 as well. But I thought that was interesting because a lot of people tended to see that Metacritic poll and kind of dismiss it because it was a bunch of critics and doesn't always reflect popular opinion. However, I thought it was really nice to see that Last of Us also made the top 10 and made number 1 on the community poll. And what I wanted to ask you, I guess, because you and I haven't actually talked about this yet, how do you feel about that being number 1? Do you think that's well-deserved? Do you think that's ridiculous?
The Last of Us?
Yes.
I mean, I'm not surprised one bit.
Do you think it's deserved to be the top game of the decade?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand like why a lot of people would say Witcher. It's definitely a game that I absolutely loved, and they did such a good job with it. I don't know. I mean, it was just such an emotional roller coaster kind of a game.
Yeah, I think so too. And I felt that I thought it was well deserved. I think it's a game that has a lot going for it. And I think even as a hardcore gamer who plays a lot of games, I definitely think it deserves to be up there. And so I can't imagine it not being one of the top games of the decade. I just feel like it had too much going for it in terms of narrative and story. And you know what? Even gameplay, I thought it did a nice job. And that's maybe where some people will disagree with me. Maybe, think it's a little clunky or not quite the best shooter. And I get that it's not a Doom or, a Destiny in terms of its shooting or even its third-person action. But I think it's serviceable for the storyline. I don't think it needs to be that tight and that responsive. I thought they did a really nice job with it overall. And so I'm really happy with it being among the top 10 and even being number 1 like that. I just feel like it's well-deserved for Naughty Dog as a whole. And so I have no problem with it personally, but that's just me.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously there's going to be people that are going to be mad about it, but yeah, I thought it was phenomenal. It's a great choice for Game of the Decade.
Yeah, I agree. And I'd be curious to see if Last of Us Part 2, since it is coming out this year, winds up being Game of the Decade when we talk about this in 2030. Which is really odd to hear myself say 2030.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
And who knows, maybe we'll be so immersed in games that Last of Us Part 2 look like some janky piece of garbage. by the time we get there. But I'd be real curious to see where we wind up on that scale with Last of Us Part 2. And so I don't have a problem with it. Like I said, I really am happy for it. I actually have a bigger issue putting something like, and maybe it's because I just didn't enjoy it, Red Dead Redemption 2 on both lists. I know it's a fantastic game, but it didn't stick with me. And I know a lot of people will take umbrage with me saying that.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm surprised that on top 10 games of the decade that Horizon isn't on there.
Yeah. And again, that's Metacritic. And so I think they were just, I'm not quite sure. I know it was the scores. I also think it comes down to, it says this one was also voted for by its users. The review database, Metacritic, is voted by users. And so, yeah, I don't know. Maybe because it's spread out amongst all the consoles. But because clearly it made it on the PlayStation list, right? Not all of those are exclusives either. I was a little more. I was also very upset that Fortnite was number 18 on that list. So, but I mean, okay, let's be honest. It is probably one of the games of the decade just for its influence, not necessarily because of its actually worth voting it in that regard, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about Microsoft for a second, because this ties into, we're going to move on and talk about Microsoft here for just a second. This ties into PlayStation. And Push Square reports that, Microsoft, of course, has been adopting a little bit different approach when it comes to Xbox this year. It has Game Pass. It revealed Xbox Series X at the Game Awards. And so it's clear it's trying to push people early into the next gen and get people to think about its machine before PlayStation 5 makes waves. However, I thought this was very interesting because according to Xbox Game Studio head Matt Booty, which I don't know how I feel about that last name, all of Microsoft's first-party titles will be cross-gen in the first year of Xbox Series X. In other words, all of the Xbox exclusive games coming during the first year of the new console generation will be both on Xbox One and the next-gen machine. And so that means there won't be any true exclusives to the Xbox Series X until at least a year into the life of the console. And I wanted to kind of pick your brain on that for a second. How do you feel about that? Because what they basically admitted to was that we don't have to purchase an Xbox Series X, right, for at least a year.
Yeah.
If we want exclusives.
It seems confusing to me that they would do that. Whereas PlayStation is like, we want people to get the new system as soon as possible. Microsoft's like, meh, it doesn't matter. You can wait a year if you want, I guess.
Yeah. Hey, no big deal, right? Wait a year.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very confusing to me.
Yeah. I was very shocked by that. I didn't feel like that was a good idea.
Yeah. I don't think it is either.
I think that ends up causing your audience to that kind of, if I was an Xbox fan and I read that, I'd go, well, Xbox One's still pretty powerful. I don't know if I need a new console yet then, especially if it ends up being $500 or $600, because the whole reason that you want a new console is you want the new games. You don't want to miss out. You want that opportunity to enjoy the new stuff. And if Sony comes out in 5 months and says, or 3 months, or in 2 months, or in 2 weeks, and says, Godfall will also be on PS4 as well as PS5, and so will every Horizon Zero Dawn 2 will be on your PS4, and blah, blah, blah. But if you want to take advantage of everything, you need a PS5. And then they say, well, by the way, the PS5 is going to be $500. I'd go, well, or $600 or even $700, we'll say, just something crazy. I'd go, well, I can wait a year. I'll wait for a price drop. I'm not going to miss any games, right?
Yeah, true.
And so I don't know that I would want to do that. So I don't know. That just bothered me a little bit.
Yeah, it's a very weird strategy.
Right? It feels like they're kind of biting themselves in the rear.
It does seem like that, yes.
Oh, well.
Good luck, Xbox.
Good luck, Xbox. So this next story is sourced from the latest issue of the official PlayStation Magazine. And it's dealing with Resident Evil and Resident Evil Resistance. And so we know that Resistance is part of the RE3 package. It's going to be one game. So that means that, of course, unlike the original Resident Evil 3, Mercenary Mode will be completely wiped out. It will be replaced with Resident Evil Resistance. But they also announced a few other things. They also announced that the choice-based events, which allow you to impact the story, and Jill Valentine's actions are gone. That's typically when Nemesis reared its ugly head. You could either choose to fight the monster or run away, and then that means that you might get extra endings based on what you chose to do. Those are gone as well. But they also announced that Carlos, which I don't remember him from Resident Evil 3. I know you didn't play the Resident Evil games, but I don't remember him at all. He's been confirmed as a playable character. The mutant worms will make their return, and Raccoon City is supposedly going to be much more open this time around. You'll be able to go to the streets, through the shops, through the patrol station, through the press offices, and even the hospital. And so you'll get to actually do a lot more exploring than Leon Kennedy got to in Resident Evil 2, and as well as you did in the original RE3 as well. And so a little give and a little take from Capcom, but I'm excited to see where they go with it. Do you have any interest in playing these remakes, RE2 and RE3?
No, thank you.
Okay. So moving on. Moving on. I thought this was interesting too. It's mid-January, and the rumors are swirling, Matt. They're swirling that PlayStation may not be at E3 again this year.
Surprise, surprise.
Many have speculated that since they have not said anything about its plans, that there may be some sort of kind of PlayStation meeting to be announced, since Jim Ryan at CES last week said that they'll share more about PlayStation 5 in the relative near future. And they haven't confirmed that they are going to E3, whereas Microsoft already has. And so I even saw another story that said Microsoft believes that Sony will skip again this year. Do you think this is a good idea for them? With a new console coming out?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why it hurts. If they're gonna make their own announcements, especially if it's like soon, if they announce something here in February or like late January, is it really gonna matter?
It might. That's why I was asking.
How do you think it would affect them in a negative way?
I think that I think people really enjoy E3, right? There's no doubt about that. People love E3. And I think that the problem with Sony not being there is this is a huge opportunity to kind of remember 2013, how excited we were when Microsoft came out and announced Xbox One, and then Sony came out. And not only did Sony do the PlayStation 4 announcement, they did by the way, this is how I am remembering this correctly, right? Remember Shuhei was there, and he's like, this is how you trade games.
This is how you share games with your friends.
On our, and
here's a game.
Yeah, they handed it, right? Great video. If you don't know what we're talking about, look it up. I need another moment like that. I need something big from both of them. And it only really works if both of them are there. And so there's another news story this week that we'll get to shortly, where it talked about how Sony has kind of gone after Microsoft, and that's been their strategy since the PS2 days. And I think that E3 is the perfect stage to do that again. And so while I think they're really great about the fact that they can control the message if they do their own show, they can control the spotlight, they can control how long it is. And I'm excited about that because I love the state of plays, even though everybody feels they're not living up to their potential. I love the idea of them. I still think there's something about E3 that it's kind of like if the Super Bowl went away because one of the teams said, that's okay, we'll have our own scrimmage game. You can watch just our players rather than watch us compete, right, against this other one. So just a thought.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that I understand where you're coming from 100%. However, my fear, well, not my fear, but like my thought is that they don't have anything like that this year. You know what I mean? They don't have anything to one up Xbox on.
Okay.
Because early reports that I've read is saying that Xbox is going to be the more powerful system again.
Okay.
So if that's the case, I don't think they want to get showed up at E3 like they have done to Xbox in the past. Okay.
And so they can, again, control the messaging there and then not have to worry about being showed up, is what you're saying?
Exactly.
That's an interesting take.
Yeah, because that's a huge stage, right?
It is. Absolutely.
You know, if they have their own kind of like state of play where they reveal it, then that's them controlling the narrative. And then whatever they say whatever Xbox says at E3 and whatever they reveal, They can still counter it in the state of play, but I don't think they have anything this year that's going to one-up Xbox. I know that they're going after Xbox. I get that. But I don't know. I just don't think it's not going to be a more powerful system, from what I understand. I'm still going to buy it. I'm still going to enjoy it, but I might also buy Xbox as well this year.
Interesting. Yeah, see, I think with Xbox, and I know, again, we are a PlayStation podcast. I've got to wait and see, because with Xbox, I need proof of those exclusives, right? I know we're getting Hellblade 2.
Yeah.
And I'm super pumped about that, but I just don't know that that's going to be enough to convince me or wow me. You know what I mean? That's a great looking game. But if that comes out in the first year of Xbox's release, because they kind of the way they teased that, I almost felt like that could be a launch title.
Yeah.
Right? Or an early title. And so if that's what happens there, then what's going to happen is I'm going to go, well, I'll just buy a cheap Xbox One X, right?
Exactly. Because it's going to drop in price as soon as the new one comes out.
Exactly.
I think that's what's confusing about the strategy as well, is the fact that they know that they're going to have to drop the price of Xbox One X. So if all the games are playable on either system, how are they going to sell the hardware?
Yes. I don't know. I don't know how you sell that. I have no idea. Well, we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting. It'll be worth exploring a little bit. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Moving on. Tales of Arise. I'm very excited about this game. The next title in Bandai Namco's long-running Tales series was announced at E3 last year, but we don't know much about it. However, apparently the game has now been rated in Korea.
Ooh.
And so you know how that works, and I know how that works. We only get ESRB or age ratings when a game is close to release.
Exactly.
Right? They don't put out for that going, hey, you know what? Let's get this done now. And then, when we change a bunch of things, we can go back and have it re-rated, right? So we'll see what happens. I'm very curious to see how soon or when that comes out. I was going to check the ESRB's website to see if that game had been rated on there at all. I assume not, because then someone probably went there and jumped and looked. We would have seen that by now. Moving on. Sony also revealed the PlayStation Stores, and this is where this tied into our story from before. The PlayStation Store's most downloaded games of 2019. I'm not going to read them all out, but of course, here in North America, Call of Duty Modern Warfare was the hottest title, followed by Minecraft PS4 edition, which I'm sure Microsoft loves since they own that IP. They're just raking in money off of the PS4. And then, of course, NBA 2K19. In Europe, Grand Theft Auto 5 actually took the top spot, with FIFA 20 in second. That actually surprised me. I would think FIFA 20 would be at the top there. Days Gone was the most downloaded exclusive in North America, finishing in the 10th position. What's more interesting is that none of the first-party games made the top 20 in Europe. None.
Wow.
Beat Saber was the best-selling PSVR game. Not shocked there. Blood and Truth took second in Europe. Of course, Fortnite dominated the DLC in both regions. But Apex Legends was the bigger free-to-pay title in both North America and Europe.
Oh, wow.
So I thought that was interesting, too.
But is that new downloads, though?
Yeah, see, that's what I was wondering, because I would think that they would just count, okay, it's tied to this account. And so Fortnite's also 3 years old this year. And so I imagine that they probably, going to run out of somebody. It's kind of like Grand Theft. Well, although, here's the thing, Matt. Grand Theft Auto 5 has been out 7 years now, or 6 years, and it's still selling. And you're like, who still hasn't purchased this game? And so, right. I mean, we joke about that every week, how it's always in the top 10 every month. So I don't know. I don't know how that works, but Apex Legends was the bigger of the two. Moving on from that, talking a little bit more about jumping back to PlayStation 5. Jim Ryan, the brand's current bigwig, of course, spoke to Business Insider Japan this past week. Gamatsu translated it, and he hinted that DualShock 5 makes a quote-unquote gigantic difference to the experience of playing games. He said, quote, playing the racing game Gran Turismo Sport with a PS5 controller is a completely different experience, he hinted. While it runs with the previous controller, there is no going back after you experience the detailed road surface via haptic control and play using the adaptive triggers. And so I'm not shocked about this. They've talked about this before, have they not? About how wonderful the haptic triggers are.
Yeah.
For that. So, and believe it or not, correct me if I'm wrong, the Nintendo Switch has haptic feedback, does it not?
What happened with your voice?
I don't know. Why is my voice all high pitched and crackly?
Nintendo Switch.
I know. I don't know what happened there.
It went real high pitched all of a sudden.
Goodness. All right.
Anywho,
I haven't had my coffee to bring my voice back down.
Are you saying that they're going to do that, or they already have that?
Well, haptic feedback means really any kind of vibration, but Nintendo Switch does have a little bit more advanced thing, because I don't know if you've noticed with them, but when your controller vibrates, it pretty much vibrates no matter what, right? Like there's a consistent vibration. It's not,
right.
What's the word I'm looking for? It's not adjusted to degrees. Whereas if you played anything with you have a light, but on the original Switch, the larger Switch, my Joy-Cons actually rumble based on how much feedback is happening on the screen. And so they might rumble a little, they might rumble a lot.
Yeah, there's no rumbling with a light.
No, I didn't think there would be. So, their Joy-Cons have a little bit of haptic feedback. I imagine that what Sony wants to do with PlayStation 5 is take that a step further. Yeah. And so I do agree with them. I love that. I actually think it's really cool when something's vibrating a little bit and then it gets more intense. It kind of creates a visceral feeling, a visceral reaction where you feel like you need to do something depending on what's happening on screen.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's cool. I'm glad and I'm excited about that. But they've talked about that before, so it's not exactly like it's, something new that they've mentioned to us. I just thought I'd bring that up. We'll talk about Jim Ryan in a minute with some more news as well. I did want to mention, did you and I talk about the Final Fantasy VII demo? We said they would be out, but we weren't sure when. Yeah. Well, GameSpot earlier this week reported that the March 3rd date for Final Fantasy VII Remake's demo has now been pulled. Ooh. They, at some point, had put March 3rd, but that's not correct. Now, I personally am still sticking with February because March doesn't make much sense with it coming out in March. I think you give people 2 to 3 weeks to a month, right, to enjoy the remake demo. So we'll see. I was going to say the demos for like EA, like the sports games are usually like 3 weeks out. Yeah. Yeah. And so I think, Final Fantasy VII has a release date. Gosh, I should know this. I think it's March 17th, right? Maybe. Let me double check. Oh, no. It's March 3rd. So why would you release the demo on the same day that you release the game? I mean, I get it to a certain extent. You're going to get those people that are going to play it no matter what, right? They're going to buy it like, oh, Final Fantasy VII, that was the best Final Fantasy game. I can't wait to buy it. And yeah. Yeah, there's going to be people like me, they're like, I mean, I guess I'll play the demo, maybe. You know what I mean? Yeah. But see, that's the thing. I think you want that because you want those initial first week sales, right? And so, if you put that demo out 3 weeks ahead of time, like you said, what EA does, then all of a sudden you get that sweet spot where people are like, wow, this is incredible. I've got to go pre-order this. But I've got to go pre-order this. Is it that sweet spot or does it allow enough time for the nostalgia to run out where people won't buy the whole game? No, because it's only going to be an hour-long demo. That's like just enough. That got me interested in Resident Evil 2 when you didn't try that demo, did you? Correct, I did not. They gave you, what was it, like 1 hour to get through the entire police station? If you could find your way out of the police station in less than an hour, that was fine. But you got to run through the entire police station for an hour. And I thought that was such a cool concept. I would love for them to give us an hour to play as far as we can into Final Fantasy VII, or at least to a certain point, and then you can purchase the full game, right? And pick up where you left off. So yeah, I guess. But you do that now because you want that hype to continue to build. So anyway, we're going to jump back into a little bit of the PlayStation 5. I just wanted to interrupt that with the Final Fantasy VII. In that same interview, of course, we know that there's hardware-based ray tracing, 3D audio, ultra high speed SSD, which I didn't know until this week, that hardware based ray tracing is much more expensive or much more impressive than normal, because most of your movies for the longest time did software based ray tracing.
Right.
But because of the demands of video games hardware, it has to be hardware. Anyway, in that same interview, Jim Ryan also said that there were unique elements and, quote, bigger differences that Sony isn't ready to reveal yet. Quote, there are still more unique elements for PlayStation 5 to come that separated from previous consoles. The bigger differences have yet to be announced, said Ryan. Matt, what are those bigger differences?
I don't know. I mean, they have to be huge for them to compete with Xbox. Like I said before, I feel like Xbox is going to be the more powerful system. They almost always are, which is fine. But if you have better exclusives or things that are going to be a bigger, quote unquote, these bigger differences, then I don't know. We'll see. I don't know what it could be. Giving that list or that was already up there, like hardware based ray tracing, 3D audio, SSD. I don't know what else they could do, honestly.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I'm
not tech savvy enough to be like, oh well, they could do this. I'm excited about the audio. I think because, in the original article that came out about the announcement of it, they said that the audio is something they really hugely focused on. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I think that'll be very cool too. I wonder, and stick with me on this, I wonder if it has something to do with the backwards compatibility, because they mentioned that they were still working on backwards compatibility and that they expect it to be backwards compatible with the PS4.
Right.
We have seen since some teases and some rumors of the idea of it being backwards compatible with, or at least I've seen these rumors, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 2, and PlayStation 1 titles. Could that be one of those bigger features?
I don't know.
Would you want that?
I mean, I wouldn't care. My old roommate was just in town getting his stuff together from his storage unit to send to where he's moving to now. And he was talking about that. He was just like, man, he's like, finally, I knew saving my Tony Hawks would pay off.
So he's convinced that that's going to be it, huh?
Yeah, he's convinced that, that's one of the things, that they're going to go all the way back.
Okay. I would love to see that. And I think the funny part is that even if Sony hadn't intended on that or wasn't sure if that was possible, I think because those rumors are circulating and swirling around at this point, that if they don't come out and say that, they are going to have a small, angry mob to deal with. Seriously, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think people are super hyped for the idea of backwards compatible PlayStation 3, 2, and 1 games on their system. And if that doesn't happen, now here's what's going to upset me about that personally. I've sold off a lot of my PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1 games. I sold most of them off.
Right.
Because I wanted to pay for other games and things like that. I was younger. I needed that, that kind of deal. And so if that happens, I'm going to be real upset. And I was trying to think of a way to reconcile this where they don't screw people like me over who have sold all that stuff and went, oh, I should have hung on to my collection. But I have not come up with a solution yet. So if anybody has a solution, please tweet at me. We are one, you are two. Right. I actually started looking up old PlayStation 1 and 2 games and how cheap they were to purchase, just in case, I wanted some back. But I don't know. I can foresee them doing this. You can't think of anything else for big deal, huh?
I really can't. Man.
Is there anything you wish list that you would like to see that hasn't been announced yet that might be ballpark dreaming it?
8K compatibility.
8K compatibility?
Yeah.
That would be crazy.
Yeah. I think having an 8K chip in it, to be able to stream or, do something like that along those lines. I think that'd be huge. That would be kind of like a dream thing.
Okay.
Just because how things are progressing TV wise. I mean, it's going to come sooner or later, right?
Oh yeah,
it's going to happen.
Yeah. There's no stopping that. That is going to be an eventuality.
Yeah, exactly. What would be like a wish list kind of a thing for you? or like a bigger difference?
I think it would be kind of cool to see some sort of social features where I could freely spectate on a game you're playing that's a little bit... I don't think we can do that now. We can share play, right? And I can watch you maybe... I think easier access to that. I would actually love to see a better user interface. I thought the folders were a good idea when I first got my PlayStation 4. And I was like, oh, I can put games into folders. I'll just have a bunch of folders. But I hate that across bar. I hate that across the bar UI. Like that you have to scroll all the way to the right or all the way to the left. I'd like a friendlier user interface. That would be amazing to me. Something that works really well. And they haven't talked about the user interface at all. And so this could be one of the more unique elements that he's talking about in the bigger differences. They could have some sort of incredible user interface. We have heard the rumors or the ideas that you can just jump straight into a game at a certain point.
Right. Yeah.
And so I would like to see how that works. We saw a patent at one point for like PlayStation Help. It seemed like an assistance type thing that you could ask for help, like help me locate this chest, right? And it would pop up in game to kind of give you an idea of a guide or something like that.
Yeah.
I would like to see them develop and flesh that out a little more and really make that a possibility. But little things like that, I think, are quality of life things might be worth checking out. So we'll see. Those are just a couple of thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like those thoughts. I mean, I feel like, what if there was something where I feel like this would screw over developers, but something where like you could just like, I could just like jump into a co-op game with you, even if I didn't own it.
Yes. Yeah. Some games we've seen do that.
Yeah.
So we know that's possible.
Right.
And so that would be a nice feature. That'd be very interesting, I think, as well.
Even if it was like a thing they only did for like a year, like here's, in all the games that come out in the first year of PlayStation 5, you or your friend can own it and you can both play the game.
I'll tell you what I want more than anything. We're talking about wish lists. I want the ability that if I own a game digitally.
Share digitally? Digital share?
Digital share or digital sell.
Oh,
I can sell. Okay. I can sell. You know what? I want to sell you the game for $5. Here you go.
Nice. Yeah, like a selling marketplace. Like a
yes,
digital
like
marketplace.
a Sony marketplace.
Ooh, I like that.
Yes. I would love a Sony marketplace.
Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, it would be, right? There's something about the idea of being able to share and sell my game that appeals to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also what would be kind of cool about that would be the fact that, even if like Sony took a cut of it or whatever, like if they controlled like, just in case, because like file transferring that can like, lead to like viruses and things like that. Like if they controlled it, like, okay, this person bought this game for this much, we're going to take, 5% or whatever. And you will download it directly from Sony. So there's no issues of like, oh, this is a corrupt thing or, you know what I mean?
Right. Well, I think that might be a little bit tougher because then your software would have to be open platform for that to happen with the virus stuff.
Yeah.
But I definitely see what you're saying. It still would be nice to be able to purchase a game like that or own a game like that. If they take a small cut, they take a small cut, But I would like to see a digital marketplace because we are heading towards a digital future. And it would be nice to be able to, even what Steam does, right? You've played less than 2 hours of a game, we'll refund you the money. So that would be doable too. I would take that. All right. Just a couple of thoughts there. So moving on. I actually thought this was kind of an interesting story. Doom and Doom 2 just received an update on the PlayStation 4. So if you decided that you were to download 1993's Doom and 1994's Doom, you may have noticed an update file for it. It doesn't say how big the patch is, but apparently the big deal about it is it makes it a 60 frame per second support for upping the frame rate. And it also curated, Bethesda also curated a list of add-ons available from each of the release's main menu, including the addition of a quick save option, brightness options, and improved level select functionality. So I thought that was kind of cool too. That's a game that, maybe a small percentage of people are playing that is how many years old at this point? 26 years old, received a patch to make sure that it had some quality of life updates, including 60 frame per second stuff. So kudos to Bethesda for doing that. Moving on. Where is it? Oh, Matt, did you see you don't have Twitter, so I don't know why I'm asking you this. But maybe you saw it on a news site. Did you see the tease we got this week from WB Games Montreal once again?
No.
Oh, yes. They released another image, and I don't know why they just don't tell us something already, but they released another image teasing on their Facebook and Instagram accounts. It also popped up on their Twitter later on, different symbols. And when put together, look like they reveal more about the Court of Owls.
Ooh.
And it says something along the line of, I forget the exact wording. It was something like along the line like hunt the bat or chase the bat or capture the Batman. And so it looks pretty exciting when somebody discovered all those symbols. They were posted in different places at different times. And then what they do is when you put them together, they create a symbol, which I assume to be the Court of Owls or something related to the Court of Owls from what I read and know of that storyline. But we did get a teaser for that this week from WB Montreal. Cool. All right, we're almost finished with the news. 2 more items here of interest that I want to mention. And those are, 1, Apple Arcade had a game I was super excited about called Exit the Gungeon. It was a sequel to Enter the Gungeon, but it was quite different. It was a side-on angle. It was frantic, bullet hell shooting. I was very excited about it, but it was only on Apple Arcade, and I really don't like playing games on my phone. Apparently, Dodge Roll Games did tweet out this week that it would be arriving on consoles, quote, early this year sometime. And so if you're an Enter the Gungeon fan like I am, good news there. Last but not least, Matt, a couple weeks ago, we talked about The Witcher. And we took a little side bet. And we said, where will The Witcher be? Will it pop up on NPD's charts? And Matt, do you remember what numbers we guessed?
I don't. I do not.
I believe I said 7, and I believe you said 8. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, that might be accurate.
I'm pretty sure that's accurate. I would like to point out that as of December 2019, on the PlayStation Store sales charts, The Witcher 3 finished 7th in North America and 11th in Europe.
Dang.
So
that's crazy.
Yes, I thought it was crazy. Just to give you an idea of the top 10 so that people can go, well, you know, what was really selling that month? Call of Duty Modern Warfare was number 1. Grand Theft Auto 5 was number 2. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order was 3. NBA 2K20 was 4. Star Wars Battlefront 2 was 5. Rainbow Six Siege was 6. And The Witcher Wild Hunt was 7th. Madden, NFL 20, Minecraft, and Spider-Man rounded out the top 10. So there you go.
That's
The Witcher
nuts.
Reappeared in the top 10 for December. Pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. All right. Anyway, moving on. By the way, I'm going to double check, but I'm pretty sure that means I won that little wager there. Let's talk a little bit about Sony's CES conference. Matt, I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. And so this is the last piece of news, but I also thought this could be something we just talk about for just a few minutes before we move into the See You Soon. And that is that not only did we get official logo reveal, I thought that was exciting, but not surprising. I was actually pretty impressed with the fact that PlayStation VR has sold over 5 million units.
Wow, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and Sony itself said that they have sold 106 million PlayStations. So if you do the math, which I did very quickly, that's about a little over a 4% attach rate with PSVR. And what I wanted to hear from you, or what I was curious about, as a PSVR owner, I'm excited about VR all the time. I want to know, what does that say to you as somebody who doesn't own one? Do you think that's a good enough attach rate for PlayStation PSVR?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a good enough attach rate. However, I mean, those are pretty solid numbers.
Yeah, 5 million units?
Yeah.
And 106 million consoles?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'd be happy with those numbers if I were Sony. It kind of gives you an understanding of, you know, people are here for VR and they kind of, you know, there's a lot of people that want it.
And I also would like to point out, because I thought about this a little bit, Sony's PlayStation VR didn't come out till 2016, and the PS4 came out in 2013. And so you're talking about over a lifespan of only 4 years, you've sold 5 million units for your headset. I think that's pretty impressive for a new piece that a lot of people didn't think would do anything, because there was a lot of skepticism around PSVR when it first came out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I feel like that's actually a pretty darn good number. I think what that also says is that Sony is on the right track with VR. And if they can really step up their game, they'll really, really have a good chance to show Oculus Quest and Vive up, I think. I think they'll have an opportunity to really take a hold of that marketplace if they can keep it cheap and make it just as appealing as something like the Oculus Go for the next gen. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to bring that to your attention. The other number I wanted to bring to your attention, I don't know if I mentioned this yet or not, is that Sony also announced they had sold 1.5 billion pieces of software for the PlayStation 4.
That's insane.
And so you do a little math, and I'm not really great at math, but if you do a little math, that's approximately 10 and a half games, almost 11 games per console.
That's pretty awesome.
I think that's an incredible attach rate.
Yeah, 100%.
10 and a half games per console. That means that your average person is buying a little over one game per year, which I know that also sounds ridiculous. But you know, there are people like us that skew that, of course.
Of course.
Because how many games do you and I both have?
Oh, too many, Robert. Too many.
But that's still a really good attach rate. And I'm sure absolutely. That, I'm sure that's also skewed by the fact that some people have more than one console in their house too.
Oh, for sure.
So, anyway, congratulations to Sony on all those numbers. I thought that was really impressive. That means that there's lots of room for growth, lots of opportunity. And I think that really shows that VR is not a fluke and that it will continue to live on. Matt, so we had a lot of news to run through this week, but we kind of talked a lot about it. So there wasn't one particular topic. I just wanted to touch a little bit on a few things there. Let's go ahead and jump into the blog and look at the games that are coming out this week. Now, Matt, we do have, if I counted correctly earlier today, 15 games coming out this week.
Ooh, exciting.
And so, yeah, that is exciting, I think. And so a couple weeks ago, we didn't have any. And so I'm glad we're back to, bombarding the PlayStation Store. I'm really happy about that. It's nice to know that everything will be back to normal.
Right.
All right.
Now, here's a question. Should we actually read the first 4 or just the first 1?
You know what? I thought about that earlier today, and I feel like we have to do justice to these games.
You're right.
And so I don't think it matters who goes first in this case, because we're both going to have to read them.
Right? It does not matter. All right, I'll start. Atelier Dusk Trilogy Deluxe Pack. The DX versions of the titles from the Dusk series are now available as a specially priced 3-game set. Atelier Aisha, The Alchemist of Dusk DX. Atelier Eska and Logi, Alchemist of the Dusk Sky DX. Atelier Shally, Alchemist of the Dusk Sea DX. Note, these titles are also available for individual purchase, as we'll get into right now.
Yeah, I see what you did there. All right, so Atelier Aisha, The Alchemist of Dusk DX. The promise begins. A dusk era has fallen upon this world many times, yet people have managed to survive and reclaim a meager livelihood thus far. Here, in a remote atelier, there was a lone girl making her living by making medicine. Her name is Aisha. Or Aisha, I don't know. All right.
Oh, you're not going to read the note?
Oh, I'm sorry. Note. The full trilogy is also available as a bundle.
All right. Up next, Atelier Esha and Logi, Alchemists of the Dusk Sky DX. The promise is entrusted to 2 alchemists. This world has seen its fair share of twilights and is slowly nearing its end. There exists a nation that has prospered through its use of alchemy, devoting their every effort to rediscovering the lost alchemic technologies of the past. Note, the full trilogy is also available as a bundle.
Oh my, I can't believe we're doing this. All right. Actually, I lost my place. I got to make sure I'm on the right one. Atelier Shali, Alchemist of the Dusk CDX. Water sources go dry. Plants wither and die. All creatures thirst and starve. I was hoping it was going to keep rhyming. The blue ocean turns to sand, and the life of the sea no longer has a place to call home. Yet still, the sun continues to shine, mercilessly drying up what little water remains in the earth. Slowly but surely, everything fades away to nothing in this dusk world. Note, the full trilogy is also available as a bundle.
All right, on to some different games. Darwin Project, PSVR Digital. Darwin Project is an outdoor, futuristic battle royale style deathmatch with a strong emphasis on hunting, trapping, and survival. Not only will you be pitted against fierce rivals, but you'll compete for the favor of an all-seeing show director.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What I find interesting about this game is that it feels like it's about 3.5 years too late.
Yes.
Because it looks... Have you seen trailers for this?
No, I have not.
It looks... It looks uncannily like Fortnite, but that someone decided that they were going to allow someone to control the arena because they're terrible at Fortnite. And so they felt like, well, if they're terrible at shooting, what can we do? Oh, let's put them in control of the arena. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. This is a big one for a lot of people. Relive the story of Goku and the other Z fighters in Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. Beyond the epic battles, experience life in the Dragon Ball Z world as you fight, fish, eat, and train with Goku, Gohan, Vegeta, and others. Explore the new areas and adventures as you advance through the story and form powerful bonds with the other heroes from the Dragon Ball Z universe. I really wish I was in the Dragon Ball Z because I would probably be super stoked about this game.
For sure. All right, up next we got Eclipse, Edge of Light, PSVR, PS4 Digital. Crash landed on a sentient planet. You awake to discover a dreamscape world filled with alien wonder and the remains of a betrayed civilization. You find a powerful relic that can interact with ancient technology and grant you near magical powers. Can you rise to the challenge and solve the haunting riddle of this mysterious place?
Ooh, fancy. All right. Gravity Error. Gravity Error is a 2D puzzle platformer about changing gravity. Guide Force in his quest-seeking emotional stableness in a set of levels and avoid being crushed. Solve the puzzles in multiple creative ways.
Fun.
I guess.
All right, up next we have Hardcore Mecha, PS4 Digital. Hardcore Mecha is a 2D platformer action focusing on a better handling. The campaign mode offers rich gameplay and seamless in-game cutscenes for an immersive experience. Choose your favorite mecha in multiplayer. Experience the fast-paced, hardcore, competitive battle of steel.
All right. Not to be outdone, Metetsu Pure Station. So Tetsu woke up from the railroad Hachiroko by accident and became her owner. For different purposes, they agreed to help find her lost locomotive. With the help of his stepsister Hibiki, the town's mayor and local railway chief, Paulette, and others. Ooh, that was... Somebody put that into Google Translate, I think.
All right, up next we got Red Bow, PS4, PS Vita Digital Cross-Buy. Ooh, I know you love your cross-buys.
I do.
Red Bow is a top-down, creepy adventure game that sets players in the role of Ro, a young girl who gets trapped in a bizarre nightmare filled with creepy monsters. Ro finds herself trapped in a strange, dark nightmare world. Help her realize what role she plays by exploring creepy environments. I like the artwork for that. That is kind of a creepy vibe to it. I like it.
Yeah, it looks somewhat interesting, right?
Yeah.
I think I searched that one out earlier. All right, Seek Hearts. Set out on an adventure to discover Aizen's mysterious origins in a sci-fi RPG. With questions swirling about why he was created and by who, Aizen sets out on a journey to discover his origins. However, as he and those with him pursue answers to this mystery, they fail to notice a shadow creeping up upon them.
Ooh.
I tell you what, if you and I make a game, I just want it to be like Jim and Bob and Mike. You know?
Yeah. All right, up next. Super Mega Space Blaster Special Turbo. PS4 Digital. A modern take on the retro arcade shooter, Super Mega Space Blaster Special Turbo is a fast-paced, frantic blast of a shoot-'em-up shmup, with loads to unlock and leaderboards to climb. Blast your way through 5 unique game modes in this easy-to-play, hard-to-master Space Blaster.
All right. Kudo points for the little rhyming there at the end.
Yeah, I like that.
Not to be outdone, Track Mayhem. Fly a spaceship inside and outside a hexagonal course in space. Move your ship left or right around the track, or fly over to avoid crashing into obstacles. Collect coins and fire up a shield to blast ahead. Hit all the booster pads for extra speed and intensity. So there's one track?
I guess. I don't know.
Interesting.
All right. Up next, and last but not least, Without Escape. PS4, PS Vita Digital Cross-Buy. Without Escape is a tribute to first-person graphic adventures of the early 90s, with an interactive story told through pre-rendered background and full-motion video. Explore the confines of your own home as you flip between a mundane existence and a terrifying other world. Are you prepared to endure the horrors that await you? It kind of looks like a knockoff Stranger Things game.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, well, that wraps it up.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that was a lot. That was a lot to handle. So, good stuff, though. Good stuff. I can't complain. Interesting stuff. All right, Matt. Well, that's all I've got.
That's it.
That's it. I quit. So, I guess, we'll just come back and do this again next week.
I think so.
All right. Well, I'll be here. If you like what you heard, you'll be here, right?
Oh, I'll be here.
Okay. Just want to make sure before we get off. If you like what you heard, you can certainly rate us again on iTunes. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Patreon, Spotify, pretty much anywhere there are podcasts. If you haven't found us on a podcast service, please let me know over at weare1ur2 on Twitter. If you don't have Twitter, you can email me at weare1ur2@gmail.com. I'm Rob. That's Matt. We thank you for stopping by. Until next time, game on.
Game on. This is the Space Blaster outro music. I'm yelling because sound doesn't travel in space, and it has to sound epic because there's so many words in the title.
I don't know how I feel about that one.
Yeah. Good times.